I need to tell someone what I did. What I destroyed. Not for forgiveness, because I don't deserve that. But because maybe if I say it out loud, someone else will see themselves in my story and stop before they ruin everything like I did. My name is Rachel. I'm 34 years old. 6 months ago, I had a husband who loved me, an 8-year-old son named Oliver who was my whole world, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. Beautiful house in the suburbs. PTA meetings. Wine nights with other moms. The kind of life I'd always wanted. Now I have supervised visitation every other Sunday in a studio apartment that smells like mildew. Let me start at parent-teacher night. October 17th. That was the night everything came crashing down, but really, it had been falling apart for months. I just hadn't noticed because I was too busy destroying my own family. I walked into Oliver's classroom alone. Mark, my husband, was supposed to come, but he'd been distant for weeks. Cold. We barely spoke anymore. I told myself it was stress from his job. I told myself a lot of things that weren't true. Mrs. Patterson, Oliver's teacher, was a kind woman in her 50s with gentle eyes that had seen too many broken families. She smiled when I approached, but it didn't reach those eyes. Mrs. Chen, thank you for coming. Could we speak privately for a moment? Something in her tone made my stomach drop. I followed her to a quiet corner while other parents chatted about science fair projects and field trips. She pulled out a folder. I need to show you something Oliver's been drawing during free time. The first picture made no sense to me. Stick figures. A house. Normal kid stuff. Then she flipped to the next one. My blood went ice cold. There was a stick figure of the woman with long dark hair. A man. They were in a car, and the specific details that my 8-year-old had somehow captured, made bile rise in my throat. Mrs. Chen, I'm mandated to report certain things. But before I do, I need to understand what Oliver might have been exposed to. These drawings suggest he's witnessed adult situations. Intimate situations. My hands shook as I stared at the picture. The woman's hair. The specific car. The location that looked sickeningly familiar. Where did he? I couldn't finish the sentence. Mrs. Patterson's voice was measured, professional. He told me he saw his mommy with Uncle Jake. In Uncle Jake's car. Behind the elementary school parking lot. He said he wasn't supposed to tell Daddy. The room spun. Uncle Jake. Mark's brother. My brother-in-law. The affair I thought I'd been so careful about. The secret I thought nobody knew. My 8-year-old son had seen us, had been carrying this poison inside him for God knows how long. Had been drawing it, processing it, trying to make sense of why his mother was doing things with his uncle that he didn't understand but knew were wrong. When did he make these? My voice sounded like someone else's. He's been making them since September. That's when I started to worry. Rachel, I have to ask. Is there something going on that Oliver has been exposed to? Something that might explain why he's drawing these scenarios? I couldn't breathe. September. That was when Jake and I had gotten careless. When the lunch meetups turned into afternoon hookups. When I thought I was so smart, so untouchable, meeting him right after drop-off at school because he would look for us there. My own child. My baby had seen me betraying his father. I need to call Mark, I whispered. Mrs. Patterson handed me her phone. I think that's a good idea. And Rachel, I'm required to call CPS. Not because I think Oliver is in danger from you or Mark directly, but because these drawings suggest he's been exposed to adult content, and I need to ensure his well-being. They'll want to speak with both of you. CPS. Child Protective Services. The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd been so wrapped up in the thrill of the affair, the attention Jake gave me that Mark had stopped giving, the way Jake made me feel young and wanted again. I told myself I was just unhappy. That Mark didn't appreciate me. That I deserved to feel alive. I'd never once thought about what it would do to Oliver if he found out. Except he had found out. Had seen it with his own innocent eyes and had been carrying that trauma while I tucked him in at night and kissed his forehead and pretended to be a good mother. Mark arrived 20 minutes later. The look on his face when Mrs. Patterson showed him the drawings is something I'll never forget. He went pale. His hands clenched into fists. Then he looked at me with such disgust, such absolute contempt, that I physically stepped back. Is this real? His voice was eerily calm. Tell me our son didn't see what I think he saw. I couldn't speak. Couldn't defend myself. The drawings spoke for themselves. With Jake. It wasn't a question. My brother. You've been with my brother, and our son saw you. Mrs. Patterson quietly excused herself to give us privacy, but I could see her through the classroom window, phone to her ear, making the call that would set everything in motion. Mark, don't. He held up his hand. Don't you dare try to explain this. Our son has been sitting in this classroom drawing pictures of his mother's affair because he didn't know how else to process what he saw. Do you understand what you've done to him? Do you have any idea? I started crying. Ugly, desperate sobs that came from somewhere deep and broken inside me. How long? Mark's voice cracked. How long has this been going on? 6 months. He actually staggered. Like I'd punched him. 6 months. Half a year. While I was working 16-hour days to give you the life you wanted. While I was planning Oliver's birthday party. While I was being a husband and a father and an idiot. I'm sorry. You're sorry, he laughed, but it was a hollow, broken sound. Oliver has been traumatized by his own mother, and you're sorry. That fixes everything, doesn't it? A social worker arrived 30 minutes later. A calm woman with a clipboard who asked Oliver to come out of his after-school care program for a chat. They took him to the library. Through the windows, I could see her showing him the drawings, asking questions. My baby looked so small. So confused. When he finally understood that he wasn't in trouble, that the adults wanted to help, he started crying. The social worker hugged him while he sobbed, and I couldn't do anything but watch from behind glass like I was already on the outside of my own family. Mark wouldn't look at me. He stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, while the social worker explained the process. Investigation. Interviews. Family counseling. Possible custody arrangements. Has Oliver shown any behavioral changes? She asked. Mark's voice was dead. He's been having nightmares. Wetting the bed again. We thought it was stress from school. Turns out it was stress from watching his mother destroy our family. The social worker took notes. And you, Mr. Chen, you weren't aware of the affair? No. I trusted my wife. I trusted my brother. I'm an idiot, apparently. I wanted to defend myself. To explain that Mark had been distant, that Jake had paid attention to me, that I'd felt lonely and unappreciated. But looking at Oliver crying in that library, none of it mattered. None of my justifications meant anything compared to what I'd done to my child. The social worker turned to me. Mrs. Chen, I need to be clear. Oliver witnessed adult sexual activity. Even if it was accidental, even if you didn't know he was there, this constitutes exposure to inappropriate content. We take this very seriously. I didn't know he saw. I would never. I love my son. I'm sure you do. But love doesn't erase trauma. Oliver is going to need therapy. Intensive therapy. And this family is going to need to make some serious decisions about how to move forward. Mark stood up. I'm taking Oliver home. Rachel, I want you to stay somewhere else tonight. I can't even look at you right now. Mark, please. You don't get to please me anymore. You don't get to ask for anything. You destroyed this family. You traumatized our son. And you did it with my brother, someone Oliver trusted and loved. Do you understand the layers of betrayal here? Do you? I understood. God help me, I finally understood. But it was too late. They say you don't know what you have until you lose it. But that's not quite right. I knew what I had. A good man. A beautiful son. A stable, loving home. I just thought I could have that and the excitement of an affair too. I thought I was smarter than the consequences. I wasn't. Oliver came out of the library holding the social worker's hand. His eyes were red and puffy. When he saw me, he didn't run to me like he used to. He moved closer to Mark. Away from me. My own son was afraid to come near me. Hey, baby, I tried, reaching for him. He stepped behind Mark's legs. I don't want to talk to mommy. The social worker put her hand on my shoulder. Give him time, Mrs. Chen. He's processing a lot right now. Time. As if time could fix what I'd broken. Mark scooped Oliver up, and my son buried his face in his father's neck. They walked away, and I just stood there in that elementary school hallway, surrounded by bright bulletin boards showing happy families and student achievements, while mine crumbled into dust. I called Jake that night. Told him everything. His response? You said Oliver was always at school during the day. You said we were careful. Not, is Oliver okay? Not, what have we done? Just blame. Just fear of getting caught himself. Jake, my son saw us. He's been drawing pictures. There's a CPS investigation. Silence. Then, I can't be involved in this, Rachel. I have my own family to think about. He hung up. 2 hours later, Mark called from an unknown number. Jake's wife knows. I told her everything. Thought she deserved to know what kind of man she married. What kind of woman her children's aunt really is. Mark, please, we need to talk about Oliver. No, we need to talk about custody. And lawyers. And how you're going to explain to our son why mommy isn't living at home anymore. Because you're not coming back to this house, Rachel. Not tonight. Not ever. I'll have your things packed by this weekend. The line went dead. I sat in my car in the school parking lot until security asked me to leave. Then I drove to a hotel and checked into a room that smelled like disinfectant and other people's bad decisions. This is the part where I should tell you I realized my mistake and fought for my family. That I became a better person through suffering. But that's not what happened. What happened is so much worse. The CPS investigation started 3 days later. A different social worker came to Mark's house. I was allowed to be there, but Mark made it clear I wasn't welcome to stay after. I sat on the edge of the couch I'd picked out 2 years ago, in the living room I'd decorated, feeling like a stranger in my own life. Oliver wouldn't sit next to me. He positioned himself between Mark and the armrest, as far from me as possible without leaving the room. The social worker, Ms. Ramirez, was kind but direct. Oliver, can you tell me about the drawings you made at school? My son stared at his hands. Small hands that used to reach for mine without hesitation. I saw Mommy and Uncle Jake in his car. They were kissing and stuff. I was supposed to be at aftercare, but I forgot my lunchbox, so I ran back to the parking lot. And stuff. 2 words that contain so much more than an 8-year-old should know. How did that make you feel? Ms. Ramirez asked gently. Oliver's bottom lip trembled. Scared. I thought Daddy would be mad at me for seeing. I thought maybe I did something wrong because Mommy looked at me really surprised and told me to go back inside and not tell anyone. She said it was a secret. I had told him to keep it secret. I'd seen his little face in the parking lot that day, pale and confused, and instead of stopping, instead of thinking about what he'd witnessed, I'd made him complicit in my betrayal. I'd made my child carry my shame. I'm so sorry, baby, I whispered. Oliver flinched. Actually flinched away from my voice. Ms. Ramirez made a note. Oliver, you did nothing wrong. Do you understand that? What you saw was an adult situation, and it wasn't your responsibility to keep that secret. But Mommy said. Your mommy made a mistake. A big one. And now we're going to help make sure you feel safe again. After Oliver was sent to play in his room, Ms. Ramirez turned to us. Mr. Chen, Mrs. Chen, I need to be frank. Oliver is exhibiting signs of anxiety and trauma. The bedwetting, the nightmares, the secretive behavior, these are all indicators that he has been carrying significant stress. The good news is that he doesn't appear to have been directly harmed. The concerning news is that he witnessed adult sexual activity and was then told to keep it secret, which compounds the psychological impact. Mark's voice was ice. What happens now? Family therapy is mandatory. Oliver will need individual counseling. Mrs. Chen, you'll need to participate in therapy as well to understand the impact of your actions. We're not removing Oliver from the home because Mr. Chen appears to be a stable, protective presence. However, we will be monitoring the situation. She looked at me directly. Mrs. Chen, I'm recommending supervised visitation for now. Not because we think you'll harm Oliver physically, but because he's expressed fear and discomfort around you. He needs time to feel safe again. Supervised visitation. Like I was a danger to my own child. How long? I asked. That depends on Oliver's progress in therapy and his comfort level. Could be weeks. Could be months. Mark actually looked satisfied. Like this was justice being served. And maybe it was. Maybe I deserved every bit of it. But it got worse. So much worse. Jake's wife, Michelle, showed up at my hotel 3 days later. I opened the door to find her standing there with 2 of her 3 kids, twin 5-year-old girls who called me Auntie Rachel at family gatherings. Who I'd babysat and bought birthday presents for and pretended to love like they were my own. Michelle's face was blotchy from crying. I wanted you to see them. I wanted you to look at their faces while I tell you what you've done. Michelle, Shut up. You don't get to talk. You get to listen. She put her hands on her daughter's shoulders. Girls, say hi to Auntie Rachel. Hi, Auntie Rachel, they chorused, confused but obedient. Now say goodbye. Because you're never going to see her again. Auntie Rachel helped Abby break our family. Their little faces crumpled. But why? Because sometimes people you trust do terrible things. Michelle's voice broke. Sometimes people you love betray you in ways you can't forgive. She looked at me with pure hatred. Jake's moving out. I filed for divorce yesterday. His kids are going to grow up in a broken home because he couldn't keep his pants on and you couldn't remember you had a husband and a son who depended on you. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't pay the therapy bills. Sorry doesn't explain to my 5-year-olds why daddy doesn't live with us anymore. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that you were sleeping with my husband while babysitting my children. While smiling at me at Sunday dinners. While pretending to be family. The twins started crying. Michelle picked them up, one on each hip, and walked away. Over her shoulder, she said, Mark's filing for divorce too. And custody. He's going to take Oliver from you, and you know what? You deserve it. I hope you lose everything. I closed the door and collapsed. Actually collapsed onto the disgusting hotel carpet and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. I destroyed 2 families. 2 sets of children who would grow up scarred by what their parents did. And for what? 6 months of excitement? The thrill of feeling wanted? My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Sarah from PTA. Just wanted you to know everyone knows what you did. Don't bother coming to any more meetings. You're not welcome. Then another, hope it was worth it, Rachel. You're disgusting. And another, how could you do that to Oliver? To Mark? You should be ashamed. Someone had talked. Someone at the school or CPS or maybe Michelle herself had spread the news, and now the entire community knew. Every mom I'd had coffee with. Every parent I chatted with at soccer practice. Every neighbor who'd waved at me in the grocery store. They all knew what I'd done. I called my mother. She answered on the 5th ring. Mom, I need help. Silence. Then, I heard what you did. Mark called me. Mom, please, I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk, Rachel. What you did was a choice. A series of choices. You chose to cheat on your husband. You chose to do it with his brother. You chose to traumatize your son. Those weren't mistakes. Those were decisions. I know, I need somewhere to stay. The hotel is so expensive and... No. That single word hit harder than anything else. What? No. You're not coming here. I raised you better than this. I taught you about commitment and family and doing the right thing even when it's hard. And you threw it all away for what? Some excitement? Some attention? Mom, I'm your daughter. And Oliver is my grandson. A grandson who's now in therapy because of what you did. I can't support this, Rachel. I won't. Figure it out yourself. She hung up. My own mother had disowned me. I tried my sister next. Got voicemail. She never called back. Later, I found out she'd blocked my number. I was alone. Completely, utterly alone. The first supervised visitation was scheduled for the following Sunday at a family services center. A neutral location with beige walls and toys that looked sanitized and sad. Oliver came in holding Mark's hand, and his eyes went straight to the supervisor, like he was checking to make sure he had protection from me. Hi, sweetheart, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Hi. He didn't move closer. Mark kissed the top of Oliver's head. I'll be right outside. You're safe. The nice lady will be here the whole time. The message was clear, you need protection from your own mother. Mark left. Oliver sat down at a small table and pulled out a coloring book. I sat across from him, and the distance between us felt like miles. What are you coloring? I asked. A dinosaur. That's nice. You like dinosaurs? Yeah. Silence. My son, who used to tell me everything, who used to talk my ear off about Pokemon and playground drama and what he wanted to be when he grew up, could barely look at me. Oliver, I want you to know that what you saw. That was wrong. That was a grown-up mistake, and it wasn't your fault. He kept coloring. Mrs. Ramirez said that too. She's right. And I'm so sorry that I hurt you. That I made you keep a secret. That wasn't fair to you. Finally, he looked up. His eyes, Mark's eyes, stared at me with something that looked like confusion mixed with sadness. Why did you do it, Mommy? Doesn't Daddy make you happy? How do you explain to an 8-year-old that you were selfish? That you wanted excitement more than stability? That you took everything good in your life for granted until it was gone? I made a very bad choice, baby. Daddy is a wonderful man. He didn't do anything wrong. Then why? Because I wasn't thinking about you or Daddy. I was only thinking about myself. And that was wrong. Oliver went back to coloring. Daddy says you're not coming home. The words gutted me. Probably not, sweetie. Good. I started crying. Couldn't help it. My son said good to the idea of me not being in his life anymore. The supervisor, a middle-aged woman with a kind face, handed me a tissue. It's okay to show emotion, Mrs. Chen. But try to stay calm for Oliver. I wiped my eyes. Can I hug you, Oliver? Please. He thought about it for a long moment. Then, slowly, he stood up and walked over. The hug was stiff, awkward, nothing like the way he used to throw himself into my arms. He patted my back twice, like he'd seen adults do, and then pulled away. I have to go. Daddy's taking me to get pizza. Okay. I love you. Love you too. But it sounded automatic. A reflex, not a feeling. That was my first visitation. 45 minutes of distance and broken trust in a child who used to be mine looking at me like I was a stranger who'd hurt him. Because I was. I moved into a studio apartment in the bad part of town because it was all I could afford. Mark had frozen our joint accounts. His lawyer had sent papers. He was filing for divorce and full custody with supervised visitation only. The petition detailed my affair, Oliver's trauma, the CPS investigation. It painted me as an unfit mother. He wasn't wrong. I got fired 2 weeks later. My boss called me in and explained that my situation was causing discomfort among the staff. Someone had seen the court documents. Word had spread. It was creating a hostile work environment, and they felt it was best if I moved on. They were firing me for being a cheater. For humiliating my family. It probably wasn't legal, but what was I going to do? Sue them? With what money? What lawyer would take my case when I'd become the town pariah? I applied for unemployment. Started looking for new jobs. But in a small community, everyone knew everyone. 3 interviews, 3 rejections. One interviewer actually said, "We're looking for someone who demonstrates better judgment and values." They meant someone who wasn't me. Jake, meanwhile, was playing the victim. I heard through the grapevine that he was telling people I'd seduced him. That I pursued him relentlessly while he tried to stay loyal to his brother. That he'd finally given in to my advances but immediately regretted it. All lies. But effective lies. Because men who cheat get second chances. Women who cheat get destroyed. His divorce was moving forward, but Michelle's family was wealthy. She had good lawyers. She was going to take him to the cleaners, and part of me felt satisfied by that. At least he was losing something too. But his kids? They were innocent. Just like Oliver. Just like Michelle's twins. All these children paying for their parents' selfishness. I started drinking. Not a lot at first. Just a glass of wine to help me sleep in that studio apartment where sirens wailed all night and neighbors fought through thin walls. Then 2 glasses. Then half a bottle. Then a whole bottle. I'd wake up hungover, remember what I'd lost, and want to drink again just to forget. My second supervised visitation was worse than the first. Oliver barely spoke. He played with Legos while I watched, and when I tried to join him, he moved to a different corner of the room. "He's angry," the supervisor explained gently. "This is normal. He's processing his feelings. Will he forgive me?" She hesitated. Kids are resilient. But they also have long memories. "It's going to take time, Mrs. Chen. A lot of time. And even then, your relationship may never be what it was. May never be what it was. My relationship with my son, the person I loved most in the world, was permanently damaged. Not maybe damaged. Permanently. Mark started dating someone. I found out from Oliver, who mentioned Daddy's friend Lisa during visitation. My stomach dropped. "Lisa is nice," Oliver said. "She lets me help her bake cookies." Mark was moving on. Building a new life. And this Lisa, whoever she was going to be in my son's life more than I was. I drove past the house one night. Sat in my car across the street like a creep and watched through the windows. I could see Mark laughing. Oliver running around. A blonde woman I didn't recognize setting the table. They looked like a family. A happy family. Without me. I'd been erased. Replaced. Like I'd never existed. Thanksgiving came. Oliver spent it with Mark and Mark's parents, who'd made it clear I wasn't welcome. I spent it alone in my apartment with a frozen dinner and a bottle of wine, scrolling through photos from last year when we'd all been together, when I'd still had everything. Christmas was worse. I was allowed a 2-hour supervised visit on Christmas Eve. I brought presents I couldn't afford. Oliver opened them politely, said thank you, and then asked if he could go back to Daddy's house to see what Santa brought. Santa. At Mark's house. Not mine. The supervisor looked at me with pity. He's spending the night at his father's? Yes. They're doing Christmas morning there. With Lisa. I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen. Sorry. Everyone was sorry. But sorry didn't bring my family back. Sorry didn't undo what I'd done. Sorry was just a word people said when they witnessed someone else's self-destruction and didn't know what else to offer. I went home and cried until I threw up. Then I drank until I passed out. I woke up on December 26 to a text from my lawyer. Mark's petition for full custody had been approved. I would have supervised visitation twice a month, 2 hours each time, pending Oliver's continued therapy and comfort level. Twice a month. 4 hours out of 720. That's all I got with my son. 4 hours a month to watch him grow up from a distance, to see him build a life that didn't include me, to slowly, painfully, irreversibly become a stranger in his eyes. The divorce was finalized in January. No contest. I signed everything Mark wanted because what else could I do? I destroyed our marriage. Destroyed our family. He got the house, primary custody, and most of our assets. I got every other Sunday in the crushing weight of knowing I'd done this to myself. At the final hearing, the judge looked at me with something between disappointment and disgust. Mrs. Chen, I've reviewed your case. While I commend you for participating in therapy and respecting the custody arrangement, I must say that your actions displayed a profound lack of judgment and consideration for your child's well-being. You've caused significant harm to your son, and that harm will follow him for years. I hope you understand the gravity of what you've done. I do, Your Honor. Do you? Because from where I sit, it appears you prioritized your own desires over your family's well-being. That's not just poor judgment. That's selfishness at its most destructive. I stood there and took it. Because he was right. Every word. After the hearing, Mark walked past me without a word. But Oliver, who'd been waiting in the hallway with a victim advocate, looked at me briefly. Our eyes met. And in that moment, I saw it clearly, he didn't just see me as someone who'd made a mistake. He saw me as someone who'd chosen something else over him. Because that's what I'd done. When I'd started the affair with Jake, when I'd continued it despite the risks, when I'd made Oliver keep my secret, I'd chosen my own gratification over my son's innocence. And he knew it. An 8-year-old child knew that his mother had chosen wrong. The thing about consequences is that they don't end. They just keep coming, wave after wave, until you're drowning in the wreckage of your own choices. It's been 6 months since the divorce was finalized. 6 months of supervised visits where Oliver calls me mom instead of mommy and keeps a physical distance like I'm contagious. 6 months of watching my son's life through a window I can't open. I got a job finally. Retail at a store 2 towns over where nobody knows my story. Minimum wage. I fold clothes and smile at customers and pretend I'm not dying inside. My co-workers are mostly teenagers and people working second jobs. They talk about their families, their kids, their plans for the weekend. I change the subject when anyone asks about mine. The studio apartment is still depressing. I tried to make it homey, but there's only so much you can do with beige walls and the smell of cigarette smoke from the previous tenant. I hung up photos of Oliver, but they're all from before. Before he knew what I'd done. When he still looked at me like I hung the moon. Now he looks at me like I eclipsed it. Therapy was mandatory, so I went. Still go. Dr. Morrison is patient and kind and refuses to let me wallow in self-pity without also examining why I made the choices I made. You say you were lonely, she said during one session. Talk me through that. Mark was working all the time. Building his career. Providing for us. I was home with Oliver, doing the mom thing, and it felt like I'd disappeared. Like I was just Oliver's mom or Mark's wife but not Rachel anymore. So you sought validation elsewhere. Jake made me feel seen. He paid attention to me. Flirted with me. Made me feel attractive and interesting instead of invisible. And it never occurred to you to communicate these feelings to Mark? To tell him you needed more attention, more connection? I'd stared at my hands. I thought about it. But it seemed easier to just take what Jake was offering. Mark was stressed. I didn't want to add to his burden. So instead you cheated on him with his brother and traumatized your son. Dr. Morrison doesn't pull punches. That's why she's good at her job, even if every session feels like emotional surgery without anesthesia. I know what I did was wrong. I know I destroyed everything. Knowing isn't enough, Rachel. You need to understand why you made these choices so you don't make them again. You need to understand that your loneliness, while valid, didn't justify betrayal. That feeling invisible doesn't give you permission to hurt the people who love you. I cried through most of our sessions. Still do. Because the truth is ugly and relentless, and there's no hiding from it when someone holds up a mirror and makes you look. I was selfish. I was cowardly. I was so focused on what I wasn't getting that I destroyed what I had. The supervised visits continued. Twice a month. 2 hours each time. Sometimes Oliver engaged with me, played games, told me about school. Other times he sat quietly, answered questions with one-word responses, and counted down the minutes until he could leave. Lisa became a fixture in his life. He talked about her constantly during visits. Lisa helped me with my science project. Lisa took me and Dad to the aquarium. Lisa makes really good pancakes. Every sentence was a knife. This woman, this stranger, was mothering my child while I sat in a supervised room for 4 hours a month and pretended it didn't destroy me. I asked Mark once, during a custody exchange, if he loved her. He looked at me with those cold eyes that used to be warm. That's none of your business, Rachel. My life isn't your concern anymore. She's around Oliver. That makes it my business. No, it doesn't. You gave up the right to have opinions about Oliver's life when you traumatized him. Lisa is good to him. She's patient and kind and doesn't lie to him or make him keep secrets that eat him alive. That's all you need to know. I wanted to scream that I was his mother. That nobody could replace me. But the truth was obvious, someone already had. Oliver's 9th birthday was in March. I wasn't invited to the party. Instead, I got a special supervised visit the day after, where I gave him gifts that were outshone by whatever Mark and Lisa had given him. Did you have a good party? I asked, trying to keep the pain out of my voice. Yeah. We went to that trampoline place. Lisa got me a cake that looked like a Minecraft creeper. It was awesome. That sounds fun, sweetie. Yeah. All my friends were there. And Lisa's daughter came too. She's 7. Her name is Emma. She's pretty cool. Lisa had a daughter. A daughter who was bonding with my son. Building a sibling relationship while I sat on the outside, irrelevant and replaced. I smiled and nodded and asked questions and died a little more inside. After the visit, I sat in my car and screamed. Just screamed until my throat was raw and my voice was gone. Then I drove back to my apartment and stared at the ceiling until dawn. Jake reached out in April. A text, "Can we talk?" I should have said no. Should have blocked him and moved on. But some sick part of me wanted to know what he had to say, so I agreed to meet at a coffee shop far from either of our neighborhoods. He looked terrible. Thin. Tired. Older than his 36 years. Michelle took everything, he said, stirring his coffee mechanically. The house, the kids most of the time, half my paycheck in child support and alimony. I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment and working 2 jobs to keep up. Good, I said flatly. He looked surprised. I thought you'd understand. We're both victims here. Victims? I laughed, bitter and sharp. We're not victims, Jake. We're perpetrators. We did this. We chose this. And now we're living with the consequences. You were lonely. I was lonely. We found comfort in each other. We found selfishness in each other. We found 2 people who were willing to destroy their families for a few months of excitement. Don't romanticize what we did. I loved you, Rachel. No, you didn't. You loved the attention. The thrill. The risk. Same as me. And now look at us. You lost your family. I lost mine. And for what? For something that wasn't even real. He reached across the table like he was going to touch my hand. I pulled away. Don't contact me again, Jake. We're not friends. We're not allies. We're just 2 people who made the same terrible choices and deserve everything we got. I left him sitting there. It felt like closing a door that should have never been opened. But closing that door didn't fix anything. The damage was permanent. Oliver's therapy was progressing, according to Mark. Dr. Chen, the child psychologist, reported that he was working through his trauma but still exhibited anxiety around me. The recommendation was to continue supervised visits and potentially, eventually, move to unsupervised time if Oliver felt comfortable. If. Not when. If. I asked during a visit if Oliver thought he'd ever want to spend more time with me. Maybe come to my apartment. Maybe do something together without a supervisor. He thought about it seriously, his little face scrunched up in concentration. Maybe when I'm older. Right now it feels weird. Weird how? Like I don't really know you anymore. You're my mom, but you're also the person who made Daddy sad and made me have to see a therapist and draw those pictures. It's confusing. I understand, baby. Take all the time you need. But every day he needed was another day I missed. Another day of his childhood I couldn't get back. Another memory made without me. I started volunteering at a women's shelter in May. Not because I was trying to redeem myself, but because I needed to do something productive with the emptiness. I helped serve meals, sorted donations, listened to women tell stories of abuse and escape and survival. Their stories were different from mine. They were actual victims. I was just someone who'd made bad choices. But being around them, helping in some small way, made me feel slightly less worthless. One woman, Maria, had 3 kids. She'd left her husband after years of abuse. She was rebuilding her life from nothing, working 2 jobs, living in a shelter, fighting for custody. But they're worth it, she said, showing me pictures of her children. Everything I'm doing is for them. To give them a better life. I thought about Oliver. About what I'd destroyed for him. Maria was fighting to give her kids stability. I'd shattered my kids' stability for 6 months of selfish pleasure. You have kids? Maria asked. A son. 9 years old. You must miss him when you're here. I miss him all the time. I don't get to see him much. She looked at me with sympathy, assuming I was another victim of circumstance. I didn't correct her. How do you explain that you're the villain in your own story? Summer came. Oliver went to camp for 2 weeks. I wasn't informed until after he'd left. Mark had every right to make that decision without consulting me. But it still hurt knowing my son was having experiences I knew nothing about, building memories in a life I wasn't part of. He came back brown from the sun, excited about archery and swimming and a girl named Sophie who he thought was cute. He told me about it during our visit, animated and happy, and for a moment it was like old times. Then he checked the clock, realized we still had 30 minutes left, and the light in his eyes dimmed. He was tolerating me. Not enjoying me. Just enduring these court-mandated visits because he had to. Can I ask you something, Oliver? Okay. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? He picked at a loose thread on his shirt. Dr. Chen says I don't have to forgive you if I don't want to. That forgiveness is a choice. She's right. It is. I don't know if I can. What you did really hurt me, Mom. And Dad. And Uncle Jake's kids. It hurt a lot of people. I know. Why wasn't I enough? His voice cracked. Why wasn't our family enough to make you happy? The question broke me. Shattered what was left of my heart into pieces so small they'd never fit back together. You were enough, baby. You were more than enough. Our family was everything. I was just too stupid and selfish to see it. I took you and Daddy for granted, and that's on me. Not you. Never you. But you still did it. Yes. I did. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. He nodded slowly. I think I'm done talking now. The supervisor walked him out early. I sat in that room and stared at the wall and understood, finally, completely, that some things can't be fixed. Some betrayals are too deep. Some wounds never heal. I'd wanted to feel alive. Instead, I'd killed the best parts of my life. Mark got engaged to Lisa in August. Oliver told me during a visit, excited. We're going to be a real family. Lisa and Emma are moving in, and Dad says maybe we can get a dog. A real family. As if what we'd been wasn't real. But I guess it wasn't, not really. It was built on the illusion that I was someone I wasn't. Someone loyal. Someone trustworthy. Someone who put her family first. That's great, sweetie. I'm happy for you. And I was. Genuinely. Because Oliver deserved stability. He deserved a mother figure who was present and reliable. Even if that mother figure wasn't me. Will you come to the wedding? He asked. I don't think I'm invited, baby. Oh. He thought about it. Yeah, that makes sense. It would be weird. Weird. That's what I'd become to my own son. Weird. Uncomfortable. An obligation he fulfilled twice a month and then forgot about. The wedding happened in September. I spent that Saturday working a double shift at the store, then went home and looked at photos people had posted on social media. Because even though I wasn't connected to any of them anymore, mutual acquaintances still shared things publicly. Oliver in a little suit, beaming. Mark kissing Lisa at the altar. A blended family celebrating a new beginning while I poured wine in my depressing apartment and pretended I was okay. I wasn't okay. I haven't been okay since that night at parent-teacher conferences when my son's drawings revealed the monster I'd become. Dr. Morrison says I need to forgive myself. That carrying this guilt forever won't help anyone, especially not Oliver. But how do you forgive yourself for destroying your child's innocence? For breaking the trust of someone who loved you unconditionally? For choosing temporary pleasure over permanent love? I don't think you do. I think you just learn to live with it. With the knowledge that you had everything and threw it away. That you were given the most precious gift, a family, and you treated it like it was disposable. My last visit with Oliver was 2 weeks ago. He's getting ready to start 4th grade. Growing up. Changing. Becoming a person I barely recognize because I've missed so much. How's school preparation going? I asked. Good. Lisa took me shopping for supplies. We got these cool folders with Marvel characters on them. Lisa. Always Lisa. The better mother. The woman who hadn't failed him. That sounds nice. Yeah. Dad says this year is going to be great. He's coaching my soccer team, and Lisa is room parent for my class. They were building a life. A full, rich, happy life. And I was a footnote, a cautionary tale. The mother who wasn't there. I'm proud of you, Oliver. You're such a good kid. Thanks. Polite. Distant. The warmth that used to be there, the spontaneous I love you, mommy declarations, the hugs that lasted forever, all of it was gone. Replaced by courtesy and obligation. The supervised visits are being reduced. Mark's lawyer petitioned, and the court agreed. Once a month now. 2 hours. 12 hours a year with my son. Because Oliver doesn't need me. He has Mark and Lisa and Emma in a stable home and everything a child needs to thrive. And I'm just the woman who hurt him. The biological mother who proved that biology doesn't make you a real parent. Love and commitment and sacrifice do. All the things I failed to give. I got a letter from Jake last week. An apology letter his therapist probably made him write. He said he was sorry for his part in everything. That he takes responsibility for his choices. That he hopes I found peace. I burned it. Because apologies are meaningless when the damage is permanent. Michelle remarried. Some accountant who treats her kids well and doesn't cheat. Her life moved on. Jake pays his child support and sees his kids every other weekend and probably tells himself he's a victim of circumstance. Everyone moves on. Everyone except the kids who carry the scars we gave them. Oliver will grow up. He'll become a teenager, then an adult. Maybe he'll want a relationship with me someday. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll invite me to his high school graduation or his wedding, or maybe he'll send a courtesy announcement in the mail. Either way, I'll have missed it. The daily moments. The bedtime stories. The scraped knees and homework help and lazy Sunday mornings. All the small, precious pieces that make up a childhood. I traded all of that for 6 months with Jake. 6 months that were over almost as soon as they began. 6 months that cost me everything. People ask if I've dated since the divorce. They don't understand that I can't. That the thought of being with someone, of trusting someone, of risking hurt again, makes me sick. And more than that, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve happiness or companionship or love. I had love. I destroyed it. So now I work my retail job. I go to therapy. I see my son for 2 hours once a month and watch him slip further and further away. I volunteer at the shelter and help women who actually deserve help. And I live with the knowledge that I did this. Not Mark. Not Jake. Not some cosmic injustice. Me. I chose to cheat. I chose to continue the affair even when I had chances to stop. I chose to make my son keep my secret. Every step of the way, I chose wrong. And now I get to live with those choices. In a studio apartment that smells like other people's mistakes. Working a job that barely pays rent. Watching my son build a life that doesn't include me. Knowing that when he thinks of his childhood, the good parts will all star Lisa. And I'll just be the woman who betrayed his father and taught him that people you love can hurt you in ways that never heal. Dr. Morrison asked me last session what I'd say to someone about to make the same choices I made. I didn't have to think about it. I tell them that the affair isn't worth it. That the excitement fades. That the guilt doesn't. I tell them that their spouse and their kids deserve better than being second choice to their selfish desires. I tell them that supervised visitation in a beige room is a special kind of hell. That watching your child's eyes go cold when they look at you is worse than any divorce, any public shame, any financial struggle. I tell them that some mistakes don't just change your life. They end it. And you spend the rest of your years watching the life you could have had play out with someone else in your role. I'd tell them not to do it. Not because they might get caught, but because even if they don't, they'll still lose. Because betrayal poisons everything it touches. And some poison never leaves your system. But mostly, I'd tell them to look at their kids. Really look at them. And ask themselves if any thrill, any attention, any temporary happiness is worth seeing that light in their child's eyes go out. Because it's not. God help me, it's not. I had everything. A husband who loved me. A son who adored me. A life that was stable and safe and good. And I threw it away because I was bored. Because I wanted to feel special. Because I convinced myself I deserved more. Now I have nothing. And I deserve that too. Tomorrow's my monthly visit with Oliver. I'll drive to the Family Services Center. I'll sit in that beige room with the sad toys. I'll watch my son tolerate me for 2 hours. And then I'll drive back to my apartment and count down the days until I get to do it again. This is my life now. This is what I chose when I chose Jake over my family. And the worst part? The part that keeps me awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every wrong choice? Oliver will be fine. He has Mark. He has Lisa. He has a stable, loving home with people who put him first. He'll grow up and thrive and build a good life. He doesn't need me. He never needed me. He just needed a mother who wouldn't betray him. And I couldn't even give him that.